by listening to this podcast, you agree to not use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in yourself or others, including, but not limited to, patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall any guests or contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of the Neuroendocrine Cancer Awareness Network be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. Welcome, everybody, to Let's Get Real. I am your host, Mike Wayman. We are done with the craziness of this past fall with the awesome national conference out in Georgia, Atlanta. If you missed it, please go over to our YouTube page, netcancerawareness.org. We'll take you right there. We have all of the presentations from all the doctors, the Q&As. So if you missed any of it, please make sure you go over to the YouTube channel. But today we have a very special guest, a net expert in his own right, a patient. We have Michel DeQuevedo. He is the founder of Nets Mexico, and he's actually kind of going to help us out get into the Spanish-speaking space here in America with NCAN as well. So, Michel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how are you? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. This has been a long time coming. We got to speak a few months back about getting together and doing some stuff together and growing you guys as well as growing our reach into the Hispanic speaking space. So I'm really excited to have you on. Before we get started, can you just give us a little bit of a background of your NET journey, your diagnosis?
Yes, well, I'm pretty new. I was just diagnosed last year, September 2021. But you know, as is the case with many neuroendocrine tumor patients, I've been having symptoms, and without knowing it, I've had it for quite a good number of years. It is said that it's probably 8 to 10 years that I've had it. I've been having the symptoms, and yeah. So in September last year, 2021, it was when it was finally found and it was finally diagnosed, and you know, after going through a lot of treatments and diets and whatnot for a good number of other conditions. And yeah, so I have small bowel, grade 1 neuroendocrine tumors. It's stage 4. I have metastasis on my liver, and well, I had in my colon, in the appendix, and in my diaphragm. But I got surgery on December 14 last year. It's going to be a year in a week.
Wow.
And I got surgery. I got a bowel resection where 90% of the disease was removed. So that reduced the symptoms, like, pretty much
drastically, I'm sure.
Drastically. And I am taking lanreotide every 28 days, 120 milligrams, which is pretty much one of the first tools that we have to stop this from growing.
Yeah. Now, for you said that you were finally diagnosed over the past year. You said 8 to 10 years. Were you misdiagnosed at all?
Yes.
Or did you
yes.
not? Did you not really? Did you kind of go, well, you know, kind of sucks. I'm just not worried about.
No. I started going to the doctor. I started telling my doctor about the symptoms that I was having about 8 years ago, which was the first time. No, it was probably the second or third time that I had a pain attack. The first one happened about 10 or 12 years ago, But the first time that I got it, I just thought it was a stomach pain. I thought
Yeah.
something that I ate or something, I don't know, something. And then because it didn't happen again till about a year later, I never thought anything about it. And that was the only thing that I was happening. But after the second time that I had pain, then something very weird happened. I started having hives in my skin. I
Hmm.
had like an attack of like very, very itchy big hives
Hmm.
that so I went to the doctor with that, and he just said it was an allergic reaction to something. So he gave me like a allergy medicine and sent me home.
Right.
And and then a little by little I started having diarrhea more often, and the hives never returned,
Hmm.
funny enough. But the diarrhea started, and then a couple years later I started having the flushings, and your face goes really hot and
Yep.
red. Which around the same time my wife was starting going through her menopause, so I started just telling her, like, you know what, I'm a team guy, I'm a team player. You have hot flashes, I'm gonna have hot flashes too. She was, of course, very happy about that.
Right.
But yeah, everything continued, and then the pain started happening more often, and every
Hmm.
single one of them, it was worse. It was longer, and it was more painful, until like 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago, but was the first time that I ended up at the hospital because I could not stand the pain. It was
Oh wow.
really bad. So I went to the hospital. And again, at the hospital, they told me, like, there's nothing wrong with you. We can't find anything. They did an ultrasound, and they did some blood work. And because everything in my blood was showing fine, everything was okay. And then I learned why they couldn't see it in the ultrasound, right? Because they were not looking for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was a challenge. I was diagnosed first with IBS, which is pretty much the first thing that always happens.
Yep.
And I got the treatment for it, and I went in the diet for it. And a few months later, I went back to the doctor saying, like, okay, the treatment's doing nothing, the diet's doing nothing. I'm still. So then he said, oh, it might be celiac disease. So change your diet and stop
Yeah.
gluten. So I stopped the gluten, and nothing happened. So then he said, oh, maybe you're lactose intolerant. So stop the lactose. So I changed the lactose. And then he says, oh, maybe it's Crohn's disease. So the new set of
New
pills
diet.
and a new diet, and nothing was changing until one day that every time I went to the doctor, I will tell him, like, okay, this is not working. We need to see something else. And at some point, my doctor, he even got a little bit upset with me, and he said something to me that was like the moment where I decided that I had to confront him. Because with doctors, a lot of the time we are very, very passive, and we believe them blindly
Hmm.
because they know, well, like, I don't know what's going on in my body. No, they spend years and years in school studying all of this. So we're usually like very, like, yes, no, whatever you say, doctor, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So at the moment that he said to me, I don't have the magic cure, and he was about to put me on antidepressants, because the last idea that he had is it was that it was all in my head, and that it was anxiety and stress, and
Yeah.
and so he was about to put me on antidepressants, which I'm terrified of. I did not want to take antidepressants. That would make me really sad. And so I stood up and I said, okay, you know what? I know that you don't have the magic cure. I'm not saying that you should find the cure immediately. What I'm trying to say is that I follow all your instructions to the letter. I've done everything you've told me, I've taken every single pill you gave me, and nothing is working, and I'm getting worse. I'm not only not getting better, I'm getting worse. So we need to like change our mind frame, and we need to start looking for something else, because the line that you're following is obviously not.
Yeah.
So he agreed with me. Luckily, like right now, I have a really good relationship with my doctor because of all this. We were able like to learn together, right? Like at first,
Sure.
there was a time that I was pissed off, obviously,
Right.
but then everything changed, and now it's a pretty good relationship because now he listens to me, and which
Sure.
is fantastic.
Well, that's something that's huge, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but advocating for yourself is super
Yes.
important. And like you said, a lot of people, they're a doctor. They are labeled a doctor for a reason. They've gone through schooling. They should know all of this, but
Mhm.
your body, and
Yes.
if you know that you're getting worse, well, you gotta give some pushback, and if your doctor doesn't appreciate you giving them the information, like, hey, this is not only not working, but getting worse progressively, then you know what? Maybe you need to find yourself a new doctor if they're not open to that, because
Mhm.
they're human. They're human just like all of us. They know a lot, and they do great things, but they're human too, and they can't know everything. But
They cannot possibly know everything. That's for sure.
yes.
So at this point, he ordered a new set of scans.
Mhm.
I got another ultrasound and another CAT scan. But again, no, because the person that was reading those scans was the same one that did the first ones. Then I asked him, like, okay, you know what? I don't want to just get the report this time. I want to get my images, and I'm gonna send them to somebody else because I need somebody else to see these images. So luckily, I have a friend, an old friend. It's an old family friend that he's a surgeon. He lives in Vancouver now, but he used to live here in Toronto.
Mhm.
So he is like, we all every single family has a doctor friend that whenever something's
Sure.
happened is the one that we call, and hey, can you help me out with this? And they both probably hate those calls, but we're
Oh, I'm
gonna keep
sure.
doing them anyways. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Yeah. So I gave him a call and I said, okay, this is happening to me. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna send you some images, and if you can take a look, please do. At this point, my doctor has said to me, you know what? There is something wrong there, because he finally saw something, but he told me very openly and very honestly. He said, I've never seen anything like this. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what it is. So I explained this to my friend. I sent him the images, and then he gave me a call like a day later, and he asked me like one question. He said, "Are you having flushings? Is your face getting red?" I said, "Yes," and he immediately said, "I know exactly what this is. I've been no, I've studied it quite like a lot." And I used to work when I was living in Toronto. There is a specialized clinic which is the best one in the country, and it's in Toronto. And I know them, and I already send them your scans. Go to them. So so at that point, like everything changed, right? Because
Sure.
I said in a video that I did a few months ago, that was a moment where a very big weight was removed from my shoulders because I finally knew what it was.
Right.
But at the same time, this other huge weight came to my shoulders because it's cancer, right? And
Right.
at that moment, it's like, oh, I know what it is, and it's like, oh my god, it's cancer.
But
What
you
am
know
I
what
gonna
it
do?
is. Right. Right.
yeah, you know what it is, but it's not like I thought. I was hoping it was going to be something, I don't know, anything else, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, but a couple days later, I at that point I called to the oncologist that I was already seeing, that he didn't know anything. He told me that there was nothing to be done and that it was inoperable, and that I was not going to live for very long. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, with that guy, I'm not pissed off at him anymore, but I just don't want to see him ever again. Let's just keep it
Yes. Yeah.
at, at that. um, so I get the call from the clinic, and it's Yuli Halet, which changed everything, right? Like, from the first thing that she told me, it was like, okay, whatever you've been told about this, forget it, because usually if they don't know, if they don't have experience treating it, they're going to treat it as like another type of stage 4 cancer, and they're not going to do anything to you,
Right.
because that's how it is with other types of cancer. So she said, um, we have the results, we have your images, we can see it, we need to do a biopsy, and then we're going to know what's what's coming. From that moment on, like, everything changed, right? Because I knew the name. It had a name already. It was not just cancer, like, of unknown type.
Mhm.
It was neuroendocrine cancer. And uh and then I was able to start learning a little bit about it. And then the biopsy came, the results of the biopsy came. uh, Turned out it was grade 1, um, gastrointestinal, and it was operable. So Dr. Halle immediately went like, okay, we need to move fast, right? Because the pains that you're having, it's related to your tumor. So it was starting to cause mechanical problems,
Yeah.
and that can be dangerous. So she said, like, we're going to try to get you in the surgery room, like, in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So 2 weeks later, I was under the knife, and they filleted me really nicely and removed some of my original parts. And yeah, and it's been almost a year, when I was not supposed to leave for according to what I was told at the beginning, it was like 6 or 7 months, and it's been a
Mhm.
year.
That's great. That's great. A lot of people, when my mother was first diagnosed with it, they said you have maybe 3 to 5 years, and here we are talking about it 20 some odd years later. So it's crazy that even still in the year 2021, and when it was, they were still saying, "Hey, you got maybe like 6 months and stuff." It's unbelievable, and people shouldn't go through that. People shouldn't
Yeah.
go through that. They need to. There needs to be more information out there. It actually leads me to my next question. What led you to create Nets Mexico? I mean, you've only you know not only, but you've only been a part of the net community for about a year and change and stuff. What
Mhm.
made you want to become an advocate? What made you want to become more involved in the community?
Well, it all started when I was thinking. uh, I think, and this is one of the biggest challenges that patients can have. How do I tell my mother that I
Hmm.
have cancer? No, how do I tell my parents and my family, and how do I give the notice? So I started thinking, okay, I need to figure out a way for her, because I'm in Canada and she's in Mexico City, right? So that that starts creating a little problem, because she's by herself there, and there's no way I can be there and comfort her and explain everything to her in a way that will calm her down.
Right.
So I thought, okay, maybe if I can find a support group for neuroendocrine cancer patients and family, then she will have access to like people around her in the same city that can provide information, and that that there's probably going to be support meetings and somebody she can rely on and
Sure.
find support. So I started trying to find one, and I didn't find anything. And I mean, Mexico, it's a pretty big country. Like, there is a lot of people in Mexico. Not as much as United States, obviously, but a lot more than Canada.
Well, and Mexico City is one of the
It's
biggest
massive.
in the world.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
massive. Mexico City has almost the same population as Canada, the
Right.
whole country, right? Yeah, and Canada is like the biggest country in the world when it comes to like land. Like,
Yes.
yeah, most of it is just ice, but but so when I didn't find anything, I started digging a little bit, and I started thinking like, okay, there's got to be people, there's got to be patients. Like, I knew at that point that it was a pretty rare disease, that it doesn't happen that often, which is not entirely true now, I know. But at
Mhm.
that moment, that's what I was thinking. So, but I was saying, like, there's got to be more people. So I started um, trying to find more patients. And funny enough, my cousin found out about it, and then she called me and said, like, I have a friend that has the exact same thing that you have.
Mhm.
So she put me in contact with her. And when I started talking to her about it, the first thing that I said is, like, how is it possible that there is nothing to help patients with neuroendocrine cancer in Mexico, in a country with millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah.
And then she started telling me not only that there is no support groups or any organizations trying to help, but that there is no specialists, and that nobody knows about the disease, and that finally, when she found out what it was, and she was finally able to find somebody that knew a little bit about it, then to get the medication is really hard. And and she started telling me all these horror stories about, like, everything that she's gone through. And then I started thinking, like, oh, okay, so I am pretty lucky. I
Yeah.
am very lucky, because I'm in a country where, like, even though it was hard for me to detect it and to be diagnosed, and like, I had to go through a very tough road, I am lucky, and I had it easy. So in Mexico, things are like a lot worse. And because I consider myself to be lucky, not only because I'm here, but because, no, like, my tumors are grade 1, are slow growing. I was able to get the surgery, and I am fine.
Mhm.
No, like, I mean, I still have cancer. I'm stage 4 cancer, but I am fine, and my prognosis is very good. So I am extremely lucky. Um, so I thought, like, okay, I can do something. I should do something, because there's a lot of people that is not as lucky as I am, and I am in a position of helping. You don't need to have money to do this stuff. You don't need to have pretty much anything. In my case, because I'm in a different country, the only thing that I needed at that point was a computer, and start doing research, and start learning, and start connecting with people, and so I did. And that's how it started. It all started in February this year.
Mhm. That's great. That's such an inspirational story too, and I love the fact that not only you're based in Canada, but it's focused toward Mexico, which
Yes.
is really where the need is, because if there's zero awareness there, you're you
Hmm.
know you're gonna make some waves, and that's really
Yeah.
awesome. That's really
And then if
awesome.
you keep going south, it's the same thing. Like South America, Central America, and South America is the same thing. There is
Yeah.
nothing. I think there is one organization in Brazil, but Brazil is kind of like a weird entity because they're the only country in all like from Mexico and down that don't
Mhm.
speak Spanish. So
Right.
there's a barrier there.
It's a little
But
disconnect. Yeah.
yeah, but other than that, there is nothing down there either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unbelievable. That's
Mhm.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of the things that you did bring up, and you mentioned the first time we met, was one of the things that obviously NCAN. We did our gala this past November. Um, you are going to be putting on a net concert, correct?
Yes, that's one of the big plans that we have. I wanted to have it this year. I wanted to have it on November 10 this year.
Yeah.
But because Nets Mexico is not registered already, like I'm not officially a non-for-profit organization, so trying to get people to donate their time on their work was proving a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
And so I decided to move it for next year. So yes, the plan is to do a big concert. I'm a musician, just
Hmm.
like you,
Yeah.
and because of that, well, number one, I want to do it because I love music, and that's my passion, and that's what I do,
Yeah.
and because I know how the power of communication that the music has, right?
Yep.
And I worked in Mexico with a lot of people too, so I know people. I have good connections there, so it's something that it's very 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 doable. And yeah, so we want to do that. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do like a massive concert to raise awareness for
That's
neuroendocrine
great.
cancer.
That's amazing. So just for anybody out there who wants to get involved, wants to help out a little bit, any little bit counts and helps. Can you let everybody know where they can find Nets Mexico?
That's Mexico. Yes, we are on, well, everywhere. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Those are the main ones. Nets Mexico. No, facebook.com/Nets Mexico or
Mhm.
Instagram.com/Nets Mexico.
Mhm.
Twitter, it's at Nets Mexico. Everything is Nets Mexico. So yes, if you just Google it, you'll be able to find it.
Awesome. Michel, thank you so much for joining us. Please, everybody, go check out Nets Mexico. We're really looking forward to see what you guys do in 2023. And we're looking forward to after we get off this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to do together next year. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to get a little bit more information about neuroendocrine and all of the things, go to netcancerawareness.org. That's everything NCAN does. Follow us on social media, Net Cancer Awareness or Net Cancer Aware. Sorry. And also, if you enjoy things like this, if you're watching the video version, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, give it a like. Also, if you're listening to us on some streaming platform, please make sure you follow us. Please make sure you give us those 5-star reviews. Help us beat the algorithm. It's the only way we're going to create awareness for this. So definitely give Nets Mexico a follow. Give us a follow. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And we'll see you next time.